are talking about mental health in the Black community.
Yo, our favorite topic.
Yes, you can go through all of that. But if you're not aware, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And it's important for everyone, number one. But number two, is especially important to talk about it in the Black community because for some odd and strange reason, it's just frowned upon to be
shunned.
Yeah, to have some sort of mental illness, and that can range anywhere from just depression and anxiety up to more serious disorders like schizophrenia and post-traumatic stress disorder, which post-traumatic stress disorder, our young Black men suffer from that more than anybody, more than the military veterans. I learned that statistic in a board retreat when they were talking about the number of court referrals for young Black men, especially in Savannah, versus any other gender or race. So when we talk about mental health, we're talking about the way your mind can really affect your entire being, your body, your interactions with people, your daily life, your job, your family, just everything. And we don't really put an important value on that because just like, oh, I'm having a bad day. Well, you're not always supposed to have a succession of bad days. You know, if there's something wrong, you should definitely be treated for it. You don't just pray away a stomach ache or, just hope that a headache feels better. You're going to do something to treat it. So if you feel that your moods are just continuous, you should treat it. You should seek the help for it.
But the thing about when it comes to seeking help, specifically in the Black community, any sign of weakness is frowned upon. I was told that I was less of a woman for experiencing postpartum.
Mm-hmm. The baby blues. They just want to say, oh, it's the baby blues. Mm-hmm. And that's not the case. So it can become postpartum psychosis if left untreated. And we saw that in that young Black girl who a couple years ago, she drowned her kids. And she had like 4 kids. She drowned 2 of them. And I think the other 2, they got away or something like that. They were a little older. But everyone, that's when everyone started commenting, she was crying out for help. You could tell something was wrong with her. She just, her appearance wasn't up to par.
But the thing is, you can't always tell. Because I felt like when it came to me, I kept it bottled up. I kept the feelings I had. I harnessed ill feelings towards my infant child. That's a problem. And I had to recognize that for myself. But no one will ever understand unless they've actually been through that, because the only people who have been able to relate to my story have been other mothers. We talked about this back when we were hosting live at exclusives, and Mo, you spoke out on it. Brianna spoke out on it. A lot of women related to that topic. And then, you try to talk to men, it could even be your significant other. They're not going to understand. That's just something they can never understand. You don't have to fully comprehend it, but you have to try to have some form of empathy, because these are women. Realistically, think of what our bodies go through for 9 months. You know what I'm saying? So after going through that time, after bonding with your child over that time, why would you want to kill them? There has to be some sort of chemical imbalance going on to cause you to have those feelings.
Exactly.
And for one, acknowledging them is showing a sign of weakness. And then seeking help, that's like unheard of, because not only are you acknowledging it, you're now admitting, I have a problem and I want help. So why is that so shunned upon? Especially when we have Mo, we see it every day down our timelines, crying about depression, but yet I don't see you mentioning a single medication that has helped you cope with your situation. It's like it becomes a point where either you're going to get help or you're not. And if you're one of those people who chooses not to seek help, then don't burden us with your constant bouts of depression.
And that's also a mental illness, narcissism.
Exactly. It's borderline sociopath.
Those are legit mental illnesses that are untreatable unless you seek counseling for them. We talk about a lot of personality disorders. You know, some people have the narcissism, the sociopath, the Stockholm syndrome, even the Munchausen syndrome, where people harm themselves or others just to seek attention. Hypochondriacs. Everybody has that one aunt that's just had this headache forever. And then it's this brain tumor that's cancerous, and she can't afford the surgery. Like, just sit down. But, we laugh about it, but those things are legit. Even to go back, way back when Eminem was in his raps talking about how his mom, used to abuse him. And you have to think about certain things like that. Like, what is really going on in people's minds? How can they be treated? Some people literally just cannot be treated through medication, or they just don't want to be treated. But for the ones who do, there are resources available for you, but you have to first seek the help. You have to admit that you have a problem, and then you can go through and seek those steps to remedy it. And when it comes to Black health, we just don't go to the doctor in general. We don't go to the doctor for anything, and that stems from a lot of different things.
Well, hold on. I'm gonna agree to disagree because I run to the doctor for anything. And then,
think about the older generation. Think about the older generation. How there's a lot of mistrust there, and I can't.
I get it.
I can't dispute it because. Have you seen Black Lightning? First of all,
not yet, but I've heard great things.
Have you seen Black Lightning?
No, I haven't.
Oh my God, y'all have to watch this because
I'm behind the 8 ball.
Oh, it was so good. I watched the whole season in one night, but
oh well, it's good.
It's good. But they were talking about how all these superhero stories, they have a underlying tone that's just going to carry throughout seasons. Mm-hmm. Well, the underlying tone that was carrying throughout this season was the fact that the government just pretty much went into this low-income Black neighborhood and experimented on the people there. And
so it's factual.
Basically, I'm like, they're telling on themselves. So it was during the time of the riots in the late 70s, and they gave vaccines to make Black people more docile so they couldn't riot. Well, one of the side effects was that some of the Black people gained superpowers.
Oh.
And so they would have someone come through and observe and see who got the superpowers, snatch them up, and then go store their bodies to really like analyze them and experiment on them. So I'm like, okay, that sounds really familiar to how all these Black people keep disappearing. Yeah. Anyway, we can go down that rabbit hole, but we're not.
Get out.
Right.
It's right there.
Right. But it was just so eye-opening to see how this whole mistrust of the government and doctors really formulates in our community, and it goes on throughout, because after that whole story came out, just like we knew something was wrong, like look at us, they just experimenting on us, and now they coming out with this new pill, this new drug, and it's making us go crazy. And I'm like, they're not far from the truth, because the Tuskegee experiments, where they were supposed to be treating them for what were they doing? Giving them vaccines, but they were really injecting them with syphilis.
Yeah.
So I can't doubt the older generation or shun them for the way they feel. However, there are certain things you need to get checked up on. If you have a family history of diabetes and high blood pressure, you need to be examining your dietary habits, your exercise habits, and you need to go to the doctor regularly. You are predisposed to these diseases. So, of course, you would need to be checking on these Same thing goes with mental illness. A lot of people, I've seen it before, where the schizophrenia is passed through genes, and it's in a black family. You know, and the mother was just like, "Oh, that's just the way she is," and it was like nothing. No, we need to have this treated.
Yeah.
You know, so
Just like brushed under the rug.
yeah, no.
And mental health in African Americans, specifically our African American men, leads to suicide.
Yes.
You know, that's why our suicide rates in African American men, specifically early to mid 20s, is so high. And that's disturbing. You know, if that doesn't make you want to do something about it, I mean, y'all know that topic holds a sensitive place with me because I went through it with my brother, and thankfully he is a survivor, you know. But I just felt, you know, you can't blame yourself, but you always feel like, okay, if I had paid more attention to his actions and, you know, giving that a little more attention, maybe that wouldn't have happened.
Right.
So the point is nipping it in the bud before it gets to the point where I feel like my life is not worth living anymore. Is acknowledging it. And the reason why people are so afraid to come out and acknowledge that they do have a problem, or they may feel, you know, a little different, is because they're afraid of what people are going to say. You know, oh man, nothing's wrong with you, you know? Or,
what you mean?
I'm telling you something's wrong with me. Like,
and you gonna tell me how I feel?
Right?
Okay.
Or even just like, oh, well, you know, you don't want nobody to know that about you. Like, no, there's nothing wrong with that. What's wrong is not treating it and being one of these people who walks around here miserable, blaming your problems on the world when you're the problem.
Right.
Because you're the one who's choosing not to seek help. It's a choice. Ultimately, it's, what do we say? It's 2018. There's no more excuses for anything. We are in the age of information. We have everything we need at our fingertips. There's
No, go ahead.
No. Go ahead. Because I was about to go off into left field.
Because this topic is so broad.
Yeah.
But, you know, going back to the no excuses, there's so many local facilities that treat mental illness, and they take Medicaid.
And that's another thing, a lot of people are afraid of the expenses. But if you take the time to look at what your insurance entails, then you will see that a lot of counseling
cover that.
Is covered by Medicaid and a lot of insurances.
Psychiatric treatment and the prescriptions that go along with them. They are covered. And if you it's no excuse. I spoke to my doctor, my generic doctor, about was like last year when I was doing going up for the test for my CPA exam, and I always experience this around my CPA exams, just this heavy anxiety, and I'm like, listen, this I gotta get stuff done, and the way I feel, I can't get it done. What can you do for me? And he was really, you know, not he counseled me in that quick moment, but he also prescribed me something too, nothing too heavy. But he gave me some really good advice, and I still follow that to this day, and it felt good to just have unbiased ear. You know, somebody to listen to me. They don't know my background. They don't know my story, but, you know, they can help me, you know, relieve some of that stress. And then also recognize that, yes, you may be a little on edge. Let me give you something to calm you down a little bit. You can't sleep. Okay, here's some sleeping pills. Here, and if it's too much, let me know. I can reduce the dosage for you. You cut it in half, whatever. If you don't feel like you need it, you don't have to take it. You know, and it was a lot. But it helped me out so much through that period. And then after it was done, I didn't need it anymore, and I was able to coast again. You know, so it just being transparent with anybody who's going to be able to help you. Just be honest. You know, don't hide anything. I was, speaking of hiding something, just a general health thing. I was talking to a colleague today, and she said, I'm so pressed about making sure people are just getting their regular checkups and being honest with what's going on and transparent about their issues, because what you think may be something, now you telling them is something, you know, a little minor. Now you in the hospital, and next thing you know, you're dead. Like, at a young age, for something that was treatable if you were just open and honest and transparent about it. You know, it's just, we got to stop self-shaming. It's not taboo. Why is everyone else okay to be mentally ill and we're not?
And we're not. Exactly.
And we're not.
Especially what we go through in everyday life. You know, you see those blue lights behind you, you're afraid.
Right.
Like, not a black person in this world, unless you're that blind, can tell me they don't get a little afraid, because we see police justified every day for just shooting down people who look like us for nothing. They don't even have. I've seen hands on wheel videos, not moving an inch, shot in the head, unacceptable. So you tell me I'm not supposed to be a little afraid? That's PTSD right there.
Right there.
You know, our young men are getting shot down at 11 and 12. Why, J. Cole? Why these guns in the community? He addresses that in KOD. You know, It's KOD, right?
Yeah, KOD.
Okay. But yeah, you know, that's all those constitute PTSD. These are our black boys and girls are seeing things in their communities as same things as soldiers are seeing overseas and getting treatment for. Why can't they get treatment?
Exactly.
You know, my friend gets shot down in front of my face, and I'm not supposed to be changed from this moment forward.
Right. No, they just get incarcerated because they're not counseled properly, and when they express their emotions in a negative manner, nobody says, hey, what happened here, or what's wrong, I need to get to the root of this problem. They're like, oh, this is what you did, here's the consequence, call it a day. But yet you see the white man an active shooter and shooting up a school will get taken out of the school alive, number one. And number two, they already giving him a mental illness defense before they're even taking the court.
On the scene.
Yeah, he was already sick. So we knew something was wrong with him. Mental illness. I'm tired of that defense for them. I need that same defense for my young black men who have seen more than one murder in their life. I need that same defense, and not even been a part of a murder. They may have just stole a piece of candy out the store,
right?
You know, but just that psychological effect on them has them thinking of a altered reality. So why can't they get that treatment? We have to start pressing, especially in the courts. We have to start pressing for our kids to be treated. We don't know what they deal with at home. We don't know what their parents are like, you know, if they're even there for them. We don't know what kind of support they have. So to say, you know what, we just throwing you away all the way around. You're thrown away at home. You're thrown away at school. Now we're going to throw you away in the courts. You're not worth anything when all you need is one person to say, let me help you. Let me figure out what's wrong with you. Let's get to the root of this so we can address this, and we can help you grow and develop into a normal human being. Because it's not normal what they experience every day, but yet it's normalized. I don't get it.
I guess that one view is, instead of looking at, you know, the young black children or, you know, the African Americans in general, it doesn't have to be young, but just when you look at the generalized view is, okay, well, they're black, they're bound to do something. Our kids are pipelined to prison in preschool, you know, elementary school. That's one of Dr. Umar's main arguments with the
standardized testing.
That's he argues about everything, but love Dr. Umar still.
Even
but
with the prostitutes.
It does. Even with the what was it? The special education department. You know, rather than adjust your teaching to fit my child's needs, let's just say he's acting out because he just can't be disciplined. So we can't. We're gonna just send him off. And instead of it, adjusting your teaching to that child's needs, these kids, they get bored easily because they know more than you expect them to know, for one. So if they're not constantly engaged, you're going to lose their interest. And it's not because they're dumb, it's because you're not doing anything to intrigue them.
Right. It's interesting. There's an interesting fact that I read some years ago. 1 out of 11 kids, I want to say kids in general or boys in general.
Probably boys.
It's most likely boys. But 1 in 11 are diagnosed somewhere on the autism spectrum. Mm-hmm. And to think about how our young black boys are labeled like that automatically, that's astounding. That number is so small. You got 1 in 11. That's not even a full classroom size. A full classroom size is 22. So you got 2 kids out of the 22 full classroom size at minimum who are diagnosed somewhere on the autism spectrum. So now, and I had to actually have a talk with Josh's teacher. She had 12 kids with IEPs in the general ed setting, that she was the only TA assigned, teacher's assistant assigned to that class. 1 for 12. They all have learning disabilities. Okay, now
hold on. Who diagnosed these disabilities? Was it a teacher who doesn't even have the psychological degree?
They can't give your kids IEPs without parental consent.
Yeah, but these parents that don't know any better, know enough to research, they're going for it. Someone in a position of authority to my child tells me this is wrong with my child, and I don't have the common knowledge to go and research this on my own. I'm just going to be like, okay, where do I sign?
But with that, there's supposed to be special services, and
supposed to be,
and that's the problem that I've been fighting with most of the year, because I'm like, okay, and she even told me it was interesting because the things that I fought for, Josh was already doing himself. I'm like sometimes the kid is great, I needed him in an individualized setting when it came time for him to learn new concepts and do his assignments, complete his assignments. He would recognize that his environment was a distraction, and he would ask to be removed from the class so he could focus. Certain things like that are built into his IEP. When he was younger, young black kids, especially the boys, they have a ton of energy. They don't stop. They get up running.
No exaggeration.
And they get up running, and if you don't know how to harness that energy, it's going to drive you crazy. And that's what happened to a lot of his teachers. They just didn't want to deal with that energy, and they just labeled him off. And I was like, that's not going to work for me. So we created in his IEP that he would be able to get breaks if he met certain prompts. So you raise your hand when it's time to ask the question. You sit down, as when instructed. You meet these prompts. Okay, you earned your time to go outside and burn off that energy. That worked so well. We carried that up to St. Louis and followed that model. And they actually told me that they used that for a couple of other students, because they said just to have them just burn out that energy, they're able to focus more. Yeah, adults can't sit still for more than an hour. You don't expect this 5-year-old to. Come on now, let's be serious. But instead of trying to figure out how to resolve the issue, you just want to label them and call it a day. I'm not going to let you do that to my son. So let's see what we can do. Let's work together, create a plan, so that way he can go ahead and do what he needs to do. His disabilities are addressed, and he's still learning at the same time. So, but we got to be more active.
Hands-on. You have to be involved. And I know that especially in black households, that can be particularly difficult when it comes to finances. Because, you have a lot of single parent homes, for one. So in those environments, mom or dad, I'm not going to shun there's a lot of single dads out here. Shout out to y'all. But you know, you're so focused on working to provide that, yeah, you don't have the time to be at the school for every event or, you know, every time your presence is maybe required. And you're not giving your child that attention that they need. Learning starts at home. You know, it has to.
Always.
Or your child will be left behind.
Always.
Because for one, who knows, your child could be one of those energetic that just gets written off. You know, he lands himself, he or she lands themselves in the wrong classroom with the wrong teacher who doesn't have the right vision. You know, and now your child's written off and you don't have time to address it, and you also don't have time to work with your child individually. So that's a child left behind right there.
Hello.
They're pipelined to prison. It's expected that in 5 to 10 years they're going to be in juvie, and after that it's just going to keep moving down. No, that's not up. Down the chain, you know.
Yep, down the chain, up in rank in prison.
Yeah,
it's
depressing.
Willie, you were supposed to be here tonight, and
Willie would have been so lit with this conversation.
He's
What's
out
up,
of town
Willie?
right now. But you know, just we got to be more proactive in how we approach mental health, illness, and issues, especially in our kids. Not just labeling them off or shunning them for issues, because a lot of kids get shunned, like, oh, he's special ed, like,
yeah, because he's got all this energy. Like, I see Trey's turning 4, so it's like right now, thinking like a teacher, I'm looking at him and I want to put him in special ed. I don't have enough patience, you know what I'm saying? But I recognize in my child, like Dr. Umar, that's one thing he said, you are the expert on your child. No one spends as much time with your child as you do, so no one can tell you what your child is or isn't capable of, what they have, you know? So I see his energy and I see where he loses focus, so I'm able to, when I see him losing focus, I jump in there and I give him something to regain his focus. Like, oh, okay, so you look a little bored because you're just running around doing absolutely nothing, just getting into random shenanigans. Come on, let's go practice some words.
Right.
Oh, let me see you write cat. I don't like your A. I need it perfect. I mean, I might be a little harsh, but if you're going to do it right.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And here's something for you parents. I started with at, because then you can add a B to it. Yeah. And you can add a C to it. And look at, we've got words. We feel like a G. Girl, sometimes he even comes home and he's like, oh, mama, I want to write words. I want to write John. No, we get it. You know how to write your name. Let's try something else.
Right.
Let's try something. And you have to get that in their mindset early. Like, okay, you already know that one. Let's try something different.
Right.
Try something you don't know. That's going to give them the thirst to knowledge right there.
But we're going to take a break real quick and give you some of these PSAs.
Yo, we're on time tonight.
Hello. I guess I can just pick any one of these. ULP, Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings, community radio with Global Soul. And we are back with Real Talk. My face is always so shiny on this camera.
It's that melanin glow.
I don't know about all of that.
Melanin.
But we are now back with Real Talk, y'all. And tonight we're talking about mental health awareness. We spoke about the kids earlier on. Now I want to talk about, and we got a little bit into the moms. I really do want to focus on the adults now. And just the daily that we go through and how we should really address this. And Smooth said something really interesting. We have to communicate more, a lot more. And that's really true. We need to be talking to someone about our issues. We need to be talking more about our issues. You know, talking to someone personally and then talking about this as a community. Excuse me. I guess I don't even know, like, another thing, going back to the church, because we got the outline So.
Oh. Yeah, because there's one thing I wanted to hit on. I know we've stressed when it comes to the PTSD in the Black community. That's one thing, you know, the shootings, being more exposed to violence, just being Black, you know. We didn't touch on the homelessness and the poverty.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's directly linked.
Yeah, absolutely.
Directly linked.
You know, if I'm concerned and I don't know where my next meal is coming from, then how am I supposed to pay attention in school? You know?
Well, another interesting point too, that I was picking up on is a lot of the mentally ill are, instead of treated in psychiatric hospitals, they're thrown in jail.
Yes.
They're just like, oh, you know, here's the local crazy bum. Let's just go ahead, give him a night. You know, he just looking for a hot in a cot. Yeah, there we go. A high in the cot. So that's it, you know. And I was eating lunch with my grandmother the other day, and I'll talk about that as well in the context of this conversation. But we were at lunch, and I don't know if anybody knows the heavyset, older, really dark skinned guy that pretty much lives downtown, and he's always talking to himself. Like, he'll start yelling at the air, but if you talk to him, he'll have a lucid conversation with you. So he walked into the district cafe and started begging, and you know, they had to ask him to leave. He didn't get too belligerent, you know, just the normal stuff. Yeah, because he's lucid enough to understand social norms, but every now and again he'll go off the deep end. And you know, we're just kind of used to seeing him around. It's like Piccolo. If he's not around, like, somebody's gonna check and make sure he's okay, because you know he's got to be downtown somewhere yelling at the you know. And there's a couple of more like them downtown too, and they hang out in Franklin Square, and they're mentally ill. They don't have any support though, you know. They don't have any family, or they don't have any family who want to assist them, and so they can't function. They can't hold down steady work, so they're just homeless. They're out begging because that's the only option that they have, and they live under the bridge, or they sleep in Franklin Square. Most of them do, you know, unless they're somewhere else, another homeless camp that I'm not aware of. You know, but they kind of just stick together in their mental illness, and that's all they have to support each other is themselves. It's really interesting to see that dynamic, though. Just, you know, how did they get there? Why did no one step in and say, you know, I see you're declining, let me help you out? Not everybody is going to accept the help. That's understandable, but you know, if you can see somebody is lucid sometimes, and then sometimes they're not, at some point you're going to talk to that lucid side of them and say, hey, you know, something's not right here. Yeah. You know, can I help you help yourself?
Exactly. Like, if we can have interventions for weight loss or drugs, then we should be able to feel comfortable enough to have an intervention for the sake of someone's mental health. Because that ultimately determines your physical health. You know, you cannot have one without the other. As your mental health deteriorates, so will your physical, because you just don't have that connect.
And your body, your body will tell you when your mind is not right. So now I can go into that conversation. So it's test time again. Yay. I test for my next CPA exam next weekend.
Right. We're claiming it.
Yes,
we're claiming it.
It better happen, because I have been entirely too stressed out.
You got this.
To not. Yes, thank you. I appreciate
you're welcome.
that. But I could tell like something was wrong, and like I would wake up, my chest and my back hurt. Like my breath was really short, so it was it hurt to breathe deep. And just my headaches, I was I was up till like 2 and 3 in the morning, even though I had just gotten up the day before at 7 o'clock. Like, my insomnia has been killing me. I'm up for like 22 and 23 hours at a time, just really trying to study, and I'm stressing myself out, and it's stressing my body out. So I came in the house the other day, and my grandmother was like, "Are you okay?" And she popped up on me at my job, because when I went to the house, I just went straight to bed. It was like 6 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm asleep. I don't even want to talk to anybody. I'm done. I'm mentally drained. Yeah. So she popped up on me at my job the next day and was like, "I saw a look on your face I've never seen before, and I needed to talk to you and make sure you were okay. Is there anything you need to talk to me about?" And I'm like, I'm just mentally exhausted. Like, I can't run away from my mind. So I'm sitting here in this.
That's the worst feeling.
Yeah, it really is. It feels like you're in a sunken place.
Yeah.
It feels like you're in a sunken place, and I'm just like, I'm torn between these emotions of like, you can do this. You need to stop stressing out. Take care of yourself. And on the other end, like, you not pushing yourself hard enough. Yeah. You all this time you sitting up here stressing out. You need to be studying. You need to study, and get yourself together. Otherwise, if you fail this test, you know you gotta pay all this extra money to take another test, and you know you got jobs depending on it. Like, I'm just all over the place, and I'm just laying there. In my mind, though, there's a real big fight.
See, it literally a fight, because you're torn between what you know you need to do, but also what you no longer have the strength to do.
Exactly. That was it. Right there. I just don't have the strength to do it. So, but I'm glad that she saw that in me and said, "I need to talk to you."
And that's all it takes. You know, that one person empathizing, you know, seeing that change in you, not seeing that change and being like, "Oh, let's go get a drink."
Right.
You know?
Right.
That is not the answer.
And not everybody. If you know me personally, y'all know I love to get my drink on. I love to get my drink on. I'm going to say it like that so I don't sound like a pure alcoholic.
If the shoe fits.
I can't stand you. Moonshine for you.
Oh, God.
Yes. But this whole experience, I haven't really been drinking anything, because I'm like, that's a detrimental behavior.
Yeah.
And I cannot do that to myself, especially when I know I'm not eating like I'm supposed to. I'm not drinking enough water like I'm supposed to. I'm not getting enough rest like I'm supposed to. I would kill my body if I indulge how I normally do. And we talking about shots here. You know, but I can't do that to myself right now. And, you know, God just so had it that any distractions that were in my way that I would normally go out and engage in this behavior with, they're not available right now. T. Moody's like in Louisiana right now. Shots out to T. Moody. But I'm so torn. And I told her, I said, you know, once this exam is over, I'll be back to my normal self. But I recognize that as well. But I'm glad you're there to help me recognize that it just takes one person.
Yeah.
Hey, something's not right. Are you okay? Let me talk to you. You know, we need that. And unless your pastor is actively telling you to go seek some counseling, or there may be something deeper that you need to seek medication for, you're not going to be able to pray this away.
Yeah. Oh, that's you were about to relate it to the church.
Yes.
And then we got off topic. As always.
As always. But you're not going to be able to pray that away. And I wanted to get to the point where in black churches, how we have all these different committees and ministries, there's a mental health ministry. Because we need it. They have a nurses guild in my church. It's not really active like it used to, because all the nurses are older now. But they used to have blood pressure checks every third Sunday for all of the members.
That's awesome.
You know, and that was really a good experience. In some other churches, they have their health fairs. Jasmine, she knows more about it than anything because, you know, that's her field.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't have that mental health support in the church. And it's just like, oh, you know, that's just the devil messing with your mind. I'm like, but, you know, when is he going to stop?
Exactly.
I'm praying.
Black folk will pray for anything.
Right. They gonna pray that gout away.
Girl,
why don't you just eat better? You know you're not supposed to have that
there's a
seafood.
simple solution.
Right.
Like, matter of fact, my downstairs neighbor, she's so hilarious because, you know, she's elderly. And I was like, you know, I saw her hand one day. She's like, oh, it's just a gout. I love crabs. You literally know you're not supposed to eat seafood, and you're going to do it anyway. I mean, isn't that you get to a certain age and you're just like, oh, well.
Right,
or,
I'm going to die anyway. I want to die slow, though. Dang.
Not from something that's preventable.
Right.
Which is why we're having this discussion.
Right.
You know, especially when it comes to the church, not knocking it because, yeah, faith is important. But
I agree.
Some things can't be solved by prayer.
Mm-mm.
You know? Prayer is a nice pillow.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not even the right word, but I just can't think of anything else right now.
It's a coping mechanism.
There we go.
It's a coping mechanism. It's a positive coping mechanism, and I would prefer to do that over drinking my problems away. But that's just what it is. I'm just coping with it. I'm not treating this. I'm not resolving my issue. You know, I'm just treating the symptoms right now. We're not getting rid of the root cause.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to stop that. I need to center myself. I need to pray about this. But I also need to go and get this medication if necessary. Or I need to go speak to somebody else so they can help me with my problems and we can get over this. I'm done with this. I don't want to have this affect my life anymore, so let me fix this. I don't know what it's going to take for us to get to that point where we say enough is enough and we're going to address this.
I mean, ultimately it's going to take, like we were talking about last week, us to get to that level of self-recognition where we're able to acknowledge our flaws because, believe it or not, we're all flawed, you know?
Absolutely.
So, you know, you have to get to that point where you're willing to acknowledge your imperfections as, not as imperfections, but as those things about you that make you unique. Mm-hmm. And if those things happen to be a hindrance to your everyday life, then have enough know-how to do what you have to do to seek the proper treatment.
Exactly. And proper treatment.
Yeah.
If you know something is not agreeing with you, say something. We are complacent.
Mm-hmm. Very.
We are complacent people, and I have to admit that in everything that I've done and seen, our complacency is what hinders us from progress.
Absolutely.
And especially when it comes to our health, and our mental health is no different. If we know, okay, the doctor gave you 30 milligrams of Zoloft. This is a true story. After my car accident, I was diagnosed with post-concussion syndrome. And they told me I was...
Wait, what? Break that down.
So post-concussion syndrome happens when you have a head injury. So you may have heard about it with the football players.
Okay.
Yeah. After a certain period of time, all these head injuries really start affecting their moods and their thought patterns, just their brains in general. And it didn't happen right away. 6 months later is when I started noticing something was wrong with me. I would go to my coworkers I never had a decent conversation with, sit there with them and start praying for them. It sounds so crazy, but I would be rambling on for hours, and I probably still have that effect. That's why we got this radio show. I get to ramble for an hour.
What better way to do it than with people listening?
Thank y'all for listening.
Right, you do a lot of rambling.
Right, but I was like, something's not right here. This isn't me. This isn't my personality.
Yeah.
So I talked to my lawyer, and he scheduled a visit with a neurologist. And the neurologist said, well, number one, you have post-concussion syndrome, but number two, I also think you're depressed. Yeah. So he gave me 30 milligrams of Zoloft, and he gave me another type of antidepressant that was used for sleep, and said take 3 of these a night if necessary. So I was on 30 milligrams of Zoloft, taking 30 milligrams of another antidepressant, and taking melatonin. He prescribed melatonin for me too, so I could sleep, because once again, I'm going off 2 to 3 hours of sleep a night.
That's a lot.
I was on a lot of different medication, and after about a month, I said, something's not right. I don't feel as bad as I was with all of these different mood swings. However, I don't feel, and my body, and anybody who's ever taken Zoloft, well, I've heard the same story. I couldn't cry. Something tragic would happen, or something devastating would happen, or even something just happy would happen where I needed to express a lot of emotions, and I was just a zombie.
That's scary.
And that's how I felt. And I was like, listen, this Zoloft, it's not working for me. I don't want to feel like this. I'm just dead inside, and this isn't working for me. What else can I do to still combat my depression but not feel like a zombie walking around here dead? So he was like, well, I'm going to reduce your dosage for Zoloft, but I still want you to take those sleeping pills, because that's going to be your biggest help to try and get you back to where you need to be, getting proper rest. And he said, I also want you to exercise. That was another thing that really helped me out too. So these natural remedies, they help me out better than the Zoloft. Eventually, I just stopped taking the Zoloft, because I was like, I'm dead inside. And then number two, I couldn't do any critical thinking, and as an accountant, that's just not work.
Unacceptable.
Completely unacceptable. So it started affecting my job, and I got written up twice because things weren't done. They were either completed or they weren't completed to satisfaction. And they knew about my issues, but they still had to document it. So I stopped with the Zoloft and kept on with the sleeping pills and the melatonin. I still take melatonin to this day when necessary, because it helps me sleep. And the other prescription, I end up weaning myself off of that. I still have some, but I don't take it as often as I used to. And when I went to the doctor last year, he prescribed me lorazepam, which is like a muscle relaxant. So it helps my body calm down and release the tension, and I can still sleep. But I had to express this. Hey, this dose, this whole mix of stuff y'all got is not working for me. What else can you do for me? Speak up.
Yeah.
This is your body. You have every right to say what goes in and what comes out and all of that other good stuff. You have to take care of yourself. Period. But I want us to be more aware of,
more open-minded.
Yeah, more open-minded for sure. Yeah. Don't be afraid to go to the doctor and tell them what's wrong. Now, if you don't trust your physician, that's a problem.
Right.
You need to seek another physician. And some people don't. They're like, I don't want to tell him. He's just going to do this and that, the third. Well, what the heck you going to tell him for?
Why are you paying him
literally
to see him? Like,
literally, why are you paying them?
It's like I had to wake up one day while I'm skipping class because I partied too hard the night before. I'd be like, listen, why am I paying to go to classes that I'm not even attending? You know, so something has to wake you up.
Right.
But
we have to get to that point, and also you need to find a physician you can trust.
Yeah. And hey, first of all, let's start with the problem. Like we said when we first got here, black people don't like to go to the doctor in general. I'm not one of those black people. I love going to the doctor. Trey coughs, we're going to the emergency room. All right, I'm that person, yo. Like, let's nip it in the bud before it gets out of hand.
Right.
So let's start with acknowledging that we need doctors in our life. Get yourself a regular physician. You know what I'm saying? It's now everybody has insurance. If not, you're paying these penalties on your taxes.
You might as well.
You might as well just go ahead and get it. It's gonna be cheaper for you in the long run and beneficial because look at all these great benefits. You don't have to go every day. You know what I'm saying? But if you recognize something's different about your body, ladies, you recognize your pH balance is a little off. We know when it's off.
Hello.
Carry yourself on down there, you know. Just once, you know, doctor, it doesn't have to be once a month, once every few months. You know, just get yourself checked out. Make sure everything's okay. If you notice, you know when you're a little off from your normal program, if you're able to function the way you normally do, or if something's a little different. Find somebody to talk to.
Right.
When I was going through postpartum, I didn't even realize it until I literally wanted to like stop this crying indefinitely, you know? And then I was like, you know what? I just stopped. I walked away. The cry was still happening. The cry didn't stop. You know, but I called my mom, you know, and that's what helped. It's like she perked. I didn't even say too much. She was just like, I'm on the way. That conversation didn't last more than 15 seconds. I don't even remember what I said. It was probably gibberish because my mind was all over the place. You know, you're cooped up in this house all day with a baby. I could barely move from the stitches. So it's like I dropped something. Too. Yeah. I dropped something and it's there until John gets home, you know, and he's at work all day. I'm home. I can't sleep. The baby won't stop crying. He's fed. He's changed. He's clean. He's being held. He's still, you know, when you have no answers to a question, you go crazy. Yeah. So I know I probably just called in sessions. She's like, I'm on the way. And, you know, we just talked. And she's like, you know, she came to get me. She came to pick me up. I started packing trays. She's like, no. His dad's here. Let's go. You need to get out of here right now. And it just took that one conversation, like that conversation you had with your grandma, when you were stressing out about yours. It just took that one conversation to turn my whole attitude around. And now I'm able to look back and see I had a problem, but I didn't really know I had it.
Just somebody else recognized it.
Yeah.
Let's be more supportive of each other. There's no reason why you can walk around with a whole clique of people and not be able to talk to one of them about your problems.
Exactly.
Have more supportive friends. 2018.
No excuses.
None.
This is the year of no excuses. This point forward, matter of fact, stop making them. They don't exist.
Exactly.
There is literally a solution to everything. If you get a brick wall at your first answer, go around it.
That's it.
Like it's a maze until you get to the end. Figure it out. That's it.
And men, please, we need y'all.
We do.
So if y'all feel
y'all dropping like flies,
right,
we need the ones we got.
I'm telling you, if you feel overwhelmed, and y'all would feel the pressure more than anybody else, except for single mothers. But you know, if you're a man who's taking care of your responsibilities, you have the pressures at work. You have the pressures of maintaining your home. You have the pressures of being an outstanding father. Yeah. And then you have the societal pressures of just being a black man.
Yeah.
You know, so that's a lot of pressure to carry on a man. If something's not right with you, seek help. You know, find someone to talk to. If you can't
Facebook is not someone to talk to. Alright, I just want to throw that out there. You cannot keep posting these status and expecting, you know, these sympathetic
sympathy.
responses.
Yes.
Because you're just crying out. You're crying out for help. That's what you're doing. But it gets to the point where nobody even wants to hear it anymore because you're the boy who cried wolf.
Right.
You know?
And there's people out here with real problems. Don't make it hard for the men who really need it.
And the hard thing about it is those people who really, like, y'all make it bad for the ones who really need it, because the people who really need the help, they're not out here broadcasting because they're too busy thinking that they don't want to show weakness. So they're trying to harness it, and harnessing it just builds it up. Like a volcano. You're gonna erupt. And it's not gonna be good.
That song Far Away is so good. For when Marsha Ambrosius, when she wrote it, you ever seen the video for it?
No.
Well, in the video, she's talking about, it sounds like, you know, she's breaking up with somebody, but she's talking about her friend who committed suicide. He came out to his daughter's mother and to his family, and they all rejected him, and she kept the child away from him, and he committed suicide. You know, but it's like, why don't we support each other, especially our black men and our single mothers?
Yeah.
They need the most support because they have the most pressure.
Absolutely.
The most, and before we close, because I did bring this and my phone is dying, so I can't live it, but I did post it on Instagram, and we've had Trelawney up here before.
Trelawney's lit.
She is lit. But I'm reading her book now, Women Who Ain't Afraid to Curse When Communicating with God. Oh,
yeah.
Boom. Pow, pow, pow. Bang, bang.
Stop 3 minutes, though.
Y'all know I'm ridiculous. But I'm reading her book now, and I'm not even reading it on a daily basis. Like, I'm reading it at my own pace, and it's crazy because the pace that I'm reading it in is like, I'm reading her daily lessons after the thought or the action has occurred. And her one of her lessons was like, some days ain't meant to be worked nor planned. Some days I need to take the wheel, and for that I need you silent and still, the spirit. I read that the day after I came back from Charleston, and Yoshi helped me.
Last time?
Yeah, Yoshi helped me drive because I needed to study, but I didn't really do too much studying. I hung out with my brother and his friends, and we, you know, had a good time downtown. We ate, and Yoshi asked me, because I was staring off into space, he was like, "What you thinking about?" I was like, "Absolutely nothing." And I said, "I love it because I have no deadlines. There's nothing pressing. There's nobody asking me to do anything for them. I'm thinking about absolutely nothing, and I love it."
And sometimes
I needed that.
Your mind needs those breaks.
Yes.
Just like we need PTO to get away from these psychos we have to see every day. Your mind needs breaks.
Yes.
I don't know. I think all the time, and sometimes I'm so overwhelmed by my thoughts that I have headaches.
Yes.
And they do not go away. And now I'm mad at everyone around me because my head hurts.
Right.
And I can't function.
Right. Right. But that is our time, y'all. Thanks for joining us on Real Talk tonight. Talking about mental health awareness. We'll definitely revisit this topic because we didn't even scratch the surface.
And also, both of our guest speakers were unable to come and speak with us tonight. So we would love to have both of them here.
Yes.
Jasmine Williams, Brianna Wahlberg. We need y'all here for this talk.
Yes.
But yeah, so we'll definitely come back to this. Did you want to do the sensitive language outgo or
we didn't even have any sensitive language today.
sensitive topic? Okay, all right. Real talk, we're out.
All right. Good night, y'all.
Wait.
You are listening to WRUULP, Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings, community radio with global soul. So, good night.
Good night.